I've been needing to make this video for a while. This is a video that I've wanted to make. I've made comments about making, and then I just ultimately, I never ended up finding the time to. This is me finding a way to finally do it. So instead of a fan art section today, we're going to have Baba on screen for a moment because, well, cat. But also, you'll see why we're not getting into the fan art section because we have a lot of artists to talk about. So first, before I go any further, let's go ahead. I'm just going to keep them on screen here. This is a thank you video. I know not everybody is here for those kind of things. Nobody wants to hear somebody say thank you to people who helped them going through stuff. It doesn't matter. There's a video that I've been needing to make, and I'm going to be making it now. And the first thank you on the list, obviously, is going to have to go to CherryBread TV. For those who don't know, Cherry is my editor and has been for about 6-7 months now. I started to get very overwhelmed with the amount of content that I had to put up on my channel and started to feel like my content style was stagnating. And that's when I contacted Cherry. I wanted to have the little bit of breathing room that I needed to function. I wanted to have a little bit of ability to watch the channel grow, and Cherry has helped a lot with that. There have been a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of growing pains trying to make what I used to do for 4 years on my own work with 2 people, but that's its own thing. The other thank you needs to go to my partner, Raziel. Raz, for those who don't know, is in charge of the Discord moderation. I literally would not have been able to get my channel off the ground had it not been for Raz. When I got fired from my my job at Aldi, it was the first job I'd ever been fired from. But when I got fired from that job, I had 2 choices: look for another job or focus full-time on my channel. Raz was currently working full-time as well and just said, you know what? No, I've got you. I will go ahead and keep working. You focus on your channel. And eventually we'll get to a point where we'll be a little more comfortable and it'll be fine. And that did happen eventually. So that is a huge thank you going out there. The last generic thank you needs to go to the moderator team. People like Pika, people like Gainer, people like Lilith and Lazy, who help keep things going. I know Gainer is only moderator over here on Twitch, not so much over in the Discord anymore, but the hand helps whenever it's there. So that's another thank you. That's the last, said, hush, I don't do jack shit. Well, yeah, because you're not moderating over on the Discord as well, but it's fine. And also, you were moderating for how long? You get a thank you. Shut up. Deal with it. But that's it for those thank yous. Now we have to do a bit of an artist showcase. Other people who help keep this stuff going. Because, as you guys know, in 2021, I became a VTuber. And so I ended up hiring, granted, on a commission basis. I can't hire any artists full time. I wish I could. If I had that kind of money, dear God, I would be so happy. But there is a list of official channel artists and then a few honorable mentions that I want to go through. The first one, of course, being Remixin. For those who do not know, Remixin is actually the person behind the model I am using right now. She is a wonderful human being, the first VTuber artist I ever interacted with. And honestly, I am very happy that she was my first. In the VTuber community, I've found it kind of weird, but the term is model mama. I still feel weird using that particular term, especially when everybody who works on models, as far as I know, is younger than me. So, yeah, model mother. It feels weird for me to use that term, but that is the term that's used in the VTuber community. And I'm happy that Remixin was the first one because she's just been a joy to work with. It's not just this model Remixin is responsible for. I'm also going to be... I usually don't do this on screen, like in an actual video, but I am going to do it for the purpose of this one. I am going to be flipping through the various models, with the exception of the 3D models, because VC Face is weird with that. But don't worry, I have a way to showcase those too. But this is also the fall model. For those who don't know, I actually had this model commissioned right before my very first subathon. And so I was very, very excited to be able to have this particular design. And there's actually an honorable mention that I need to put out there before I continue with Remixin. There's an honorable mention that needs to go out to Taylor Allen. I have their Instagram right here, Taylor.tired. Taylor is actually the one who initially posted the fan art that this autumn model was based on. There was an autumn design that Remixin had kind of been poking around, and when I sent this one to Remixin, we both just went, yes, this one will work. This one will work. You want links? Absolutely. I have a link going right there. There's a link right there to Taylor Allen, and here is a link to Remixin. But that's not quite the extent of everything Remixin has done where this channel is concerned. A few of you may actually know this particular artwork. While the animation here is done by Nighthell Graphics, this artwork was done by Remixin earlier on as well. Before my character actually had like any versions of the model that were hoodless, this artwork was done by Remixin. So if you've seen this in the opening of any streams, this is a Remixin creation. That is where that is from. So definitely want to have that thank you out there. But we need to move on to the next artist, because otherwise we're going to be here all day if I just keep talking about Remixin. The next artist we need to talk about is, of course, Yara Koro. Now, for those who might be wondering what Yara is responsible for, here, let me go ahead and show you a couple of things. Let me see if I can... There we go. How many of you remember this? How many of you remember this office right here? This office right here, this is done by Yara Koro. This location, based off of my actual office in real life, with the Nerf guns hanging on the walls via pegboard and everything, this is a Yara Koro creation. And this was used for the longest time when I started doing VTuber stuff, because I wanted a location to call my own for my own style. Now, I ended up moving on from using this particular office because I started to gravitate towards using stuff like this, more open outdoor areas, stuff from my favorite video games, so I could showcase that stuff. But there's other stuff that Yara has worked on here. Let me go ahead and just make Blizzy less wide. This Blizzy walking emote right here, this one, if you guys want to spam that in chat, this is a Yara Koro creation right here. Of course, Blizzy in general, for those who do not know, is also a Yara Koro creation. In fact, actually, Blizzy is going to be sitting here for the rest of the time that we are doing this. If you guys want to know the origin of these two terrible things here, the Catboy Milk and the Slime Boy Milk, respectively. So for subathon purposes, Rambler Bishop, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. I appreciate it. Owl. For subathon purposes, I actually wanted to have a PNG of food that my character could have, like, you know, cheeseburgers and pizzas and sushi, and some drinks like boba tea and stuff like that. Stuff that when I'm physically eating on stream, we could use to signify that I was physically eating on stream. Now, I ended up, as most of you on stream know, I've drifted away from that idea because it became too much of a hassle. But when I commissioned everything, Yara Koro actually took that image, the image of all the different foods that I ended up using, and threw an extra one in and just said, hey, you're welcome for the Catboy Milk. I had no idea what Yara was talking about until I saw what they actually had made. This terrible carton that has created all kinds of terrible things in my channel came from there. So there's that as well. And we're not done there. Before we move on to the next artist, Jesus Christ, my cats are terrorists. Before we move on to the next artist, for those of you who've seen this piece at the end of every episode during the credits, that is also a Yara Koro creation. For those who have seen these emotes floating around, these two specifically, there's a couple more, but that one, the demisexual one, those are Yara Koro creations. So want to give a thank you there before we move on to the next artist. Yara is basically asset artist for the channel, whereas a lot of the other artists tend to work on models and stuff like that. I tend to commission Yara when I'm like, hey, I need a particular asset. I need a particular thing done. Speaking of that, there is one thing that I need to show before we move forward any, because there is one particular thing Yara has been working on that we're actually getting some music set to. The music that's in here is not the final music, but there is an animation that Yara's been working on that people on stream have seen. but I know that not everybody has seen, and it will eventually be utilized as a channel opener for the channel. The music that's back here is just no copyright filler music. It's going to be replaced later, but so that animation was done by Yara Koro. That will end up being an official channel opener on the channel, but it's going to take a little bit because the music is actually being worked on by Trey Nobles. For those who don't know Trey is a guitarist. He's a musician in general, but specifically he does a lot of guitar work for Emmy Jones, who is big in the Sonic the Hedgehog community. The next artist I need to throw up is a little more than an artist, also a really good friend, somebody who I work with on Sunset City. For those who don't know, Wayne is boss. Now, Wayne actually is responsible for a fairly significant portion of one of my channels. For those who are unaware, if you look under my Twitch, every one of these images, with the exception of the send food one, all of these images, these are all done by Wayne. These are all done by Wayne as boss. Wayne is the artist responsible for all of those. Also, for anybody who's ever wanted a link to any artist who ever does work on the channel, this artist credits section has links to all of them. Every single one of them. So, even there's another person, another honorable mention, GF Suris, who's appeared on various streams, just, sitting here on the chat bar, was done by a user named Cat, in all caps. No link to anywhere, but that is an honorable mention that needs to be there as well. Moving on, it said, people in chat, Wayne is boss. We're trying to get Wayne to the point where he can do YouTube full time, so maybe go to the description, hit that link there. Also, hello, I see you have the baby. Raz came in just holding Emrakul.
I'm not holding her.
No, you're not. Emrakul's just in your shirt. You're like a kangaroo with a cat. Moving on. The next artist we need to talk about is, of course, Bon Bon Berry. For those who do not know, Bon Bon is actually the artist behind all of the 3D models I've used on this channel officially. Bon Bon's also in the chat. So for a while, I realized that there's limitations to Live 2D. If you do Live 2D models, there's things that it's harder and harder to do. And the technology is improving, don't get me wrong, but the technology, the trade-offs tend to be, if you want really good, complicated designs, if you want really, eye-catching things on the surface, you go Live 2D. But if you want more articulation, you tend to have to go 3D. 3D models there's just much more you can do with them. You can interact in 3D environments with them. There's pros on the design side, but there's also for 2D models, but there's also pros on the 3D side for functionality. There's a lot of stuff you can do with them that I just am not able to do in Live 2D. Now, I might not have the ambitions to do all the things with 3D models that they can do, but there's certain things like hand tracking that I want to be able to do. I actually have Elite Motion sitting in front of me that hasn't been utilized because I don't have the ability to use it yet. I need to figure out what's going on with it. And of course, Bon Bon's working on some 2.0 models right now. So these designs that you're going to see, you've seen them on the channel before, likely, but bear in mind they are going to be updated to some fairly robust 2.0 versions because the software Bon Bon has been using, as well as Bon Bon's skills, have been improving over time. And I am always willing, when I have the funds, to throw money at those increased design skills. But Bon Bon is the one that was responsible for the design as well as the creation of this particular model. Why is my brain farting? The beach model. So, almost at 230 followers. I didn't check my Twitter that often. That is fair. Also, Bon Bon was responsible not for the design specifically of the witch model, though there are aspects of the witch model that have been designed by Bon Bon, but the actual witch model, 3D model, is a Bon Bon Berry creation. The original artist, I ended up having to ask permission if I could use their design that was used in fan art for it, and I do not have the name written down for some reason. I don't know why. Aha! Mr. Stopheles. There we go. All right, so Mr. Stopheles posted this picture, and this is what ultimately ended up being utilized to create the Witch Suris model. This design right here was done by Mr. Softleys. I found the post. I did it. So thank you very, very much. That means an absolute fuck ton to me. When you guys post fan art, a lot of people may have already clued into this, but I have a tendency to go through my fan art section, and sometimes I'll hire people from the fan art section on commission. Sometimes I'll use designs from the fan art section with artist permission for official things on the channel. So that isn't saying post fan art so that eventually I can throw money at you. That's not necessarily a thing that's always going to happen, but that is primarily where I've looked for that kind of stuff. It also helps because people in the fan art section tend to have an idea of the general vibe of my channel, and so when I'm like, hey, can you do this thing based on that thing? Yeah, the whole Neko Suris thing started because of fan art. So, like, Jack the Vulture made fan art, and therefore we're here. I also have a piece from Jack the Vulture real quick that I want to show you guys for those who might not have already seen. Jack the Vulture may not be an official channel artist, but he is responsible for a massive part of the legacy of this channel. Chishina's for the original, like, Fem Suris design, and then Jack the Vulture for the Neko Suris design that ultimately became, like, major channel branding. But this was a piece that was done by Jack the Vulture, specifically. My character with Blizzy holding the Virgin Killer sweater down here. I'm not sure if anybody actually noticed that little detail. It's an easy one to miss, but that's actually the Virgin Killer sweater being held in that arm right there. This is actually a playmat that I have in real life. I use this when I go to Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering tournaments. Here, I even have a picture of that as a playmat. There's the actual printed playmat itself. Said it's a bit too wrinkled to make out as a sweater specifically. True, the image that I gave Jack the Vulture for reference probably has a lot to do with that. But yeah, where'd you get that printed? I literally just use Amazon. Like, if I had the money, I would use Inked Gaming because they have the best quality prints. But for me, when I get I already spend enough money on the actual art itself that I'm like, I just need it printed. I just need it printed. It's fine. It'll be fine. But back to Bon Bon Berry. The Christmas model here is also a design from Bon Bon Berry. Bon Bon Berry is also responsible for this. For those who don't know, the Maid Suris thing, like many things on this channel, kind of began as a joke. I did not ask Bon Bon to make a maid outfit. I did not ask Bon Bon for this model. Bon Bon just made it, put it in fan art, and I was like, oh, well, that's neat. You know what? How about I use that as a joke for an episode or two? That'll be fun. And then, like, Yara Koro and a bunch of other artists ended up making a bunch of fan art of Maid Suris, and I just like, yeah, okay, fine. It's lore now. It's lore. We have a Maid Suris' lore now. Fuck it. Here we are. That's where we are. But that is Bon Bon Berry. The next person that I have to point out, this is actually the artist I've known the longest and is the one of these artists I actually know in real life. And that would be Turning Tide Studio. Now, Tide is actually responsible for a webcomic called Life with Love and Magic. I actually own one of the few physical copies of the first season of this particular webcomic back when it did its first run on Webtoon and Tapas. Tide is a good friend of mine. I've known Tide for years before I actually became a YouTuber in any capacity. Tide has been responsible for, there's a model that was used on my channel for the longest time. For those who don't remember, like the male Leith Suris model, that is a Turning Tide Studios production. Also, Tide is responsible for some of the Patreon slides that are used on the channel, like this one right here. This one for Starlight. This was one that was done by Turning Tide Studios, who's a good friend of mine. Speaking of artists who work on Patreon slides, I also need to talk about Jack and Quill. He is an artist who's responsible for the majority of the Patreon slides that we have. By example, we have one here that is Prisma's, and we have one here that was Lynn's. So these are all done by Jack and Quill. The credit for, like, whichever artist does which piece, there's a credit for that in that section of any video specifically, and that is done by Jack and Quill. The next person I have to talk about is someone who's not necessarily super associated with the channel, but is definitely helped out a lot, all things considered. This is Mosh, Viquissa, however you would like to go. Viquissa is actually the emote artist, or Mosh is actually the emote artist for the channel. So while there's about 5 or 6 emotes that have been done by Yara Koro, and even one that was done by Red Joker, the Blizzy waving emote, the majority of the emotes you find on this channel are all done by Mosh. So we go into here, there's a couple by Mathematical Cabbage, a couple by Yara, but like, this is a Mosh creation right here. That's Mathematical. Where are we? That is a Mosh creation. This one that was me and Raz together. Like, a lot of these are all done by Mosh. Those, I think, yeah. Like the Slime Suris one here, the Owo, this one right here, the sort of like trepidatious one, the Growlith emote right here, the subscribe that you guys see on various bits, the points to Patreon, the request to follow, all of those little buttons, these ones right here, the little Tabasco bottle, all these are done by Mosh. And there's a link in the description to every artist responsible in this channel. But there's a link down there if you guys want to go commission Mosh. Their prices for emotes are very, very reasonable. I would highly recommend if you need stuff for your channel. Let them know I sent you. Please do. They're a wonderful person. The next person I have to talk about is an interesting case. This is actually Suzu Sawara. So Suzu is responsible for, I mean, if you can tell from the designs here, Suzu's responsible for Slime Suris, and by extension, Slime Girl Suris. Now, Suzu's a weird case. So, like, Remixin and Bon Bon Berry, I went on to Fiverr looking for specific artists because I wasn't in those communities, so that was the only way I knew how. Like, I didn't know 3D modelers, I didn't know live 2D artists, so I went to Fiverr to find them, and I mean, now they're my friends. Suzu was a different case. I found Suzu as a VTuber and asked for a model in my searches for a 3D model, ultimately going with Bon Bon Berry in the end. I did not realize that Suzu had already known me. Apparently, Suzu had actually been watching my channel for a while before I ever contacted them. And it was very, very weird for me. That was not a bad weird, definitely a good weird. But it's one of those things, like when you run into somebody who's like already known you, it feels very strange. We'll go ahead and go to a Suzu model real quick. Bop, bop, bop. So normally I would put this model on the desk because if I am Slime Suris, I am on the desk. That's how it works. But I'm not going to do that right now for time's sake. But Slime Suris is actually a product of Suzu, Sawara. But I also need to go into the one that most of you are familiar with right now, that I've been using a lot on my channel because it's, quite frankly, probably one of the most robust models I have in terms of its ability to emote, is this one right here. This is the Slime Girl Suris model. This is done by Suzu. Let me make sure that they are still up right there. Said robust. I'm not meaning in the chest, but also that, like, the ability to boing the hair out like that. I can literally just, like, it's like a yo-yo. Whee! But, like, having access to a lot of different emotes and stuff, like, this is all stuff that Suzu is responsible for. I said Shantae Suris. Might as well with the hair whips. Might as well with the hair whips, right? But that is something that Suzu is responsible for. Suzu is also responsible for this design. This is the channel logo that we ended up settling on eventually, and this channel logo was done by Suzu. The channel logo that you see at the end of the Yara Koro animation is this exact logo. Johnny, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. So yeah, title card. So it's a VTube model. Robust boobs are more or less mandatory. It's fair. It's true. Those are the things Suzu is responsible for. Suzu is another very, very talented artist. Pretty much every artist here is talented. If they weren't, I wouldn't have thrown copious amounts of money at them. I don't want to think about how much money I've spent on art in the last 2 years. So I won't. I'll do my best not to. Phantom Rem, thank you for redeeming your points, friend. You fucking monster. But now we've got to move on to the next artist, because of course we do. We need to go ahead and talk about Salem Sky. Salem is another artist who does work on Webtoon. Their Webtoon is linked over in their Twitter. In fact, actually, let's go ahead and do a post here. If you have not already taken a look at Salem's webtoon, please consider doing so. But Salem is responsible for another model that some of the degenerates on this channel are actually very, very familiar with. Let me go ahead and bring up this model right here. I'm sure most of you are somewhat familiar with this one, right? I'd hope so. So this is another like very, very highly articulate model that is done, and this one is done by Salem. Story behind this one was Salem said that they could rig a 2D model for me, and I said that's cool. I would appreciate that, but I've seen your artwork. I would actually like you to design the model too. If you could do the artwork and also do the model. So we settled on a 90s anime character design with the way the eyes work and the general shape of the head and body, and then settled on this particular design. And Salem got this design in for me, and I am just incredibly thankful for this one in particular. Like, I know, like, Remixin, I'm thankful for the first one. Bonbon, I'm thankful for being the 3D modeler. Salem's also helped Bonbon a little bit with 3D model stuff, so thankful for that as well. But this model here, and then also the Christmas variant of it, which I can bring up here in a second, were both Salem creations. And it's hard to get Salem to do a model. It's actually very hard to get Salem to do a model. So I'm thankful for the models I do have from Salem, because they are amazing and very appreciated. And eventually I might be able to get more, but that all depends on how willing Salem is to do projects. Zatega says you need to go through your models a little more often. So I'm going to. I try to rotate between my models as often as I can, but I stopped doing it a little bit because of the Slime Girl debut. But after a little more time using the Slime Girl model, I am going to be going back to doing standard rotation for models. If I remember right, this is the first model of sleeping pose. I believe Salem's model is the first one with the sleeping pose. Actually, so while the expressiveness of Suzu's model is one of the biggest things that I like about that one, Salem's model is one that uses more emotes than any other one. There's actually so many different emotes I can do with this model that I can't fit them all on my stream deck. I have the ability to be angry. I have the ability to be shocked. I can cry. I can have a little bit of disgust. I can go into yandere mode because I can do that with all of my models. I can do this right here. Same thing I can do with Suzu's model, the villain shine. I can also do this. This is the thing I can only do with this one. Cringe before me. I can do this as well. This is how I feel when commissioning another model. I can do this expression, which I don't use very often because I'm usually angry when I'm talking about things. Just like with the slime model, I have the ability to have long and short hair. This was actually the first model that idea was used on. So the Suzu slime model having the ability to do it is an extension. Like, if it weren't for Salem's model, that idea wouldn't have happened at all. And then also, of course, the villain shine. And there's like 4 or 5 other things, including the ability to sleep, that this model has that I cannot fit them all on my stream deck, because my stream deck can only hold, 15? Yeah, 15 buttons. And there's more emotions than that this model has. I cannot. Salem experimented on this model a lot, and it shows. We're moving outside of artists who are responsible for things that are used on the channel 24/7 and into artists who have provided significant pieces of work for the channel that are used all the time. The one I'm going to talk about right now is Glubbinex, and if you noticed, I have scrolled down. Because if I scrolled up, Twitch TOS would hit me, because Glubbinex makes a lot of porn. I'm just going to put a link to Glubbinex's profile there. You will find just all the porn your heart can handle when you click that. That I cannot go further than that. That is just the kind of work Glubbinex does. But the biggest thing that Globenex has contributed to the channel. There's two of them. The first one is this right here. You've probably seen this animation in the ending of every episode. Cherry has integrated this into the ending of the show. The animation may be done by Untitled Graphics, but the actual artwork was done by Globenex. The pieces Globenex is that would have been the most impactful from Globenex ended up not being able to get used, unfortunately. I wish they could have been. I'm finding a way to do it kind of sort of in the background right now, but are these. So these are the mousepad designs that we were going to be using in the merch store on the channel, but the problem we ran into is while it's easy to get a body pillow design, it is very hard to get Opie mousepad designs. So while there are these two designs and other designs done by Globenex, these never ultimately ended up getting used because I could never find a distributor that was able to make them. The one that I found that could make them said that the particular style would not fit with the other stuff on their website, and I am not going to just go grab a different artist and be like, redo these, but in a more anime waifu style. Because, like, while I could do that, that would be kind of insulting to Globenex. So I'm trying to find other ways to handle that. So eventually, we will find a way to make these into merch. I'm trying to work with Stream Elements to find a middle ground where the mouse pads are concerned. They won't be booby mouse pads because I just can't get those. Unless somebody in the comment section finds a way to do that, then we will utilize that. But these are the things that Globenex has been responsible for where the channel is concerned. But we're not quite done. We got a few more to go into, because if you guys hit the Daki command, you'll be taken to a website. You'll be taken to this website where you can find the Suris Dakimakura. Now, this body pillow did not come up out of thin air, though it would have been funny if it did. This piece of merch design was actually designed not by Globenex, but by Pernia. Now, there's actually one of those body pillows in my house because my partner is weird and bought a body pillow of my character. I still don't know quite how I feel about that. I feel kind of insecure. Like, do you like me or do you like VTuber me? But Pernia is responsible for this piece. Pernia is actually responsible for a lot more stuff than just that. But that is one of the biggest ones. The Dakimakura is designed by Pernia. There's also there were some other like different sheet designs that were talked about with the Dakimakura there as well. A couple other pieces here. This piece right here was done by Pernia as well. You guys have probably seen this as a channel opener. This was done by Pernia, and this piece here was also done by Pernia. In fact, actually, if we're on the topic of different playmats that have been commissioned, this piece was originally going to be used as a Magic the Gathering card. Instead, I ended up having it done as a playmat. I don't have a picture of the playmat itself, but I do have this playmat in physical form as well. That is Pernia, and I want to thank Pernia, just like every other artist, for helping work on various elements of this channel. So, the last person that we need to talk about is responsible. They're not an official channel artist, but there's a piece of their art that has been used as a piece for streaming for the longest time. It's two pieces, really. The Bouncing Suris emote and the Sleeping Suris thing that we use whenever I'm taking a break. So like this emote right here. And of course, this piece right here, which anybody who has seen me go for a potty break on my channel, you've seen this. At least I hope you would have seen this. These pieces were originally fan art, but eventually got integrated onto the channel, and I ended up paying for them because they were done by Mathematical Cabbage. I have their Instagram right here because that is the actual... that's the social media that they wanted me to utilize whenever I was referring to them in my artist section. And they're the last artist we have to talk about today. Mathematical Cabbage is responsible for the Sleeping Suris. For those who are familiar with Ocean's server, you probably know Mathematical Cabbage from there as well. So, by the way, you can use the Kirby Suris fan art in case you want occasional Kirby-related vid. Well, thank you very much, Aaron. Said Cabbage actually also helped me repair your Joy-Con earlier this week. Oh, that's awesome, Pika. I didn't know that was within Cabbage's skill set. There's also a thing Cabbage is working on that I do not know when it's going to be done, but there is a model that Cabbage is going to be working on, and when that model is done, I'm going to be paying for it as well. I did not commission the model. It got put in as fan art, but like with these fan art pieces, I was literally like, hey, I'm going to get Cabbage. I'm just going to toss money at you for this real quick. Did you know the trick with Cabbage can help you... did you know that this trick with Cabbage can help you lose weight? Yeah, and I'm sure doctors hate him when you say that too. But yeah, that is, unless I am missing anybody, every artist that is responsible for the current way the channel operates. It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of people to keep the channel going in its current form. And a good chunk of it is also based on people who are submitting in fan art, because the aesthetics of the channel, the way that I've operated, a lot of it's been based off of user feedback. A lot of it's been based off of fan art that's been submitted. That has literally a direct impact on channel lore. There's other artists like Ivana Dragmeyer, who has made influential pieces on the channel as well, that I could talk to. But if I talk about every artist who's ever done anything that has been like amazing or influential, I'll be here all day. So I'm sticking to my official artist list for the time being, because that just keeps things much more simple. But the last people that I need to thank, honestly and truly, but the last people that I need to thank are all of you. And I know that sounds really cliche to thank your viewers, but really, y'all are the ones that make this channel work. By extension, I've got to thank everybody who is on my Patreon, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be able to afford fucking groceries. So, like, the combination of people who are willing to watch me rant about things I'm passionate about on the internet, and the people who are willing to functionally, by commission, pay me money to do my job, it's weird. And I know it's cliche to thank all of you, but I'm gonna do it anyway because, frankly, you deserve it. Even if I had all of these artists working on my channel, even if I had me working 24/7 to get content out, none of what I do would work if it were not for everybody who views, for everybody who watches. And that goes beyond just watching over on YouTube or being on Patreon. Whenever I have to take a sponsor that I don't necessarily like, and people who are over on my Twitch are willing to go, hey, we'll help you with the sponsorship campaign. We'll sign up for this thing because we know it helps you, especially when there's not a cost associated with it. I'm not asking people to like buy anything. Like, that stuff helps more than you could ever know, because sometimes bills sneak up on you. Sometimes your air conditioner breaks. Sometimes the car breaks down. I mean, I've had more of that lately than I want to admit. Kind of getting tired of life throwing me curveballs. We'll play Raid Shadow missions. Combination of watching my stuff and helping me when I have those sponsorships that allow me to keep doing what I do, and then also helping out over on Patreon. Like, guys, I cannot replace that. I can't replace any of you. Anti-Pretzel, thank you for resubscribing as well. That's another thing. People who subscribe over on Twitch, like, okay, look, there was a turning point. A point at which I started being able to afford artists to do stuff, and that turning point was coming over to Twitch. Coming over to Twitch and having the extra revenue from Twitch, most of that ended up just going back into the artists who work on my channel. Like, a good chunk of Twitch revenue just goes there because I didn't have the ability to reinvest in my channel. We were doing very paycheck to paycheck. We're still paycheck to paycheck, but it's not as bad as it was before, and it's thanks to all of you over here. But I wanted to make this video because I've been meaning to make a thank you video. I've been meaning to make something talking about the people who make this channel run, who keep this operation ticking, because I would not have been able to do any of this without all of you. Every artist, every viewer, every patron, my partner, my editor, like, none of this is possible without you guys. So, honestly, thank you. Thank you a lot. I cannot replace any of you. But with that said, I don't think there's much more to say. If you liked the video, you already know what to do. I don't need to tell you to go over to my Patreon, because I already thanked the patrons. You guys know what you did. So as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.